What's up everyone, welcome to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the toughest matchup for every single champion in every division. Starting up the flyweight division, we have Alexandre Pantoja. There were two main guys that came to mind, which were Manel Kape and Brandon Moreno, and a third kind of on the side that was Kai Kara-France. Kai Kara-France ultimately didn't really make the top of the top because although he's a good striker with some solid power and some very good grappling defense, he has had his back taken at times against Askar Askarov. And although he is very solid power, Alexandre Pantoja has a very, very solid chin. And I like his ability to potentially grab the back of Kai Kara-France if he can't find the takedowns. He's very good at, potentially failing takedowns, scrambling over to the back, getting some hooks in, threatening a rear naked choke, and winning rounds that way, as we saw against Brandon Moreno. And just on the feet, he is a tough guy to deal with, considering he has good power in his own right and a very solid chin. Talking about the Brandon Moreno matchup, it's a very interesting one. In the first fight, I do think that Pantoja rightfully won, and he won through his grappling exchanges. He was able to get the back, really take down Moreno at very significant times, and do enough control mixed in with the damage on the feet to win the rounds. I know it was a little bit controversial. Moreno definitely did a little bit more damage in a lot of those rounds, which is why people thought Moreno won the fight. But Pantoja, in my opinion, had moments of control on top of being very close and very slightly behind on the feet in a lot of those exchanges, and kind of landing some pitter-patter shots while being in grappling dominant positions. I know it's kind of an annoying way to win a fight and a very, very fun fight to watch, but ultimately I do think it was the right decision. I'd have to rewatch it. I do think it was very close, but in my head, although control time isn't scored as heavily as it used to be, I think it was the right decision. Now in a rematch, it's a very interesting fight. I do think that Brandon Moreno has the tools to win this fight. He has some adjustments to make, such as he was just entertaining the brawling exchanges from Alexandre Pantoja a little bit too much in my opinion. In my opinion, he is the better striker at range. He is the more technical striker. Now I do understand with the takedown threat from Pantoja and from the power threat and just the overall wildness of Pantoja, it's very hard to be able to pressure Pantoja, make it a super technical fight, slow the fight down any bit. I completely understand that, but I do think that Brandon Moreno should look to fight at range a little bit more, maybe switch stances a little bit more. And although that is a very tough task, that will give him a lot of success in this matchup. Now, I don't think he was fully prepared for the grappling. Now that he's fought Pantoja for, I guess, the third time, I guess he's 0-3 against Pantoja, he'll be a little bit more accustomed to the takedown entries from Pantoja. Now, I do think Pantoja has been improving against Royval. I know maybe it wasn't the most fun performance, and Pantoja did look like he was slowing down at the end a little bit more than he was against Brandon Moreno, in my opinion, but he did say, Pantoja did say this, that he blacked out because of how sick he was, not because of the strike that landed, but he genuinely was just in top control and blacked out because he was super sick. I think his cardio is probably a little bit better than it was displayed against Brandon Royval. And Brandon Royval had a big opportunity to finish that fight in the 4th and 5th round, I do think. If he stuffed those takedowns, which he was not able to do, I could have seen him finding a potential TKO. But that's the thing about Pantoja. When he's gassing out, he's able to push forward and keep just dogging his way through how tired and fatigued he is. And he'll find some big moments for himself, especially in the grappling exchanges, finding some control time, maybe top control, finding body triangles, finding the hooks in the back. That's what he did against Moreno. And then against Royval, he just took him down and kind of held him there in side control, played it kind of safe. But we'll see how this one goes. In a rematch, it is very interesting. I think Moreno has some improvements that he can make, and being in there with the most recent version of Pantoja can really allow him to execute a much better game plan this time around. Now, Pantoja probably has some adjustments to make as well, and I do think his wrestling and grappling is improving as we speak, along with his striking, and going to a striking war with Brandon Moreno probably improved his striking as well, and we have seen multiple times that once fighters become champions, they become more confident, and just overall a little bit better. And a matchup with Manel Kape. This is so interesting to me because Manel Kape, he's got some solid takedown defense, but his striking style is very, very well fit to beat a guy like Alexandre Pantoja, in my opinion. The question is, can he stuff the takedowns? If he does, I think he is probably the better striker here. I know Manel Kape hasn't beaten a top-level striker, and that's why I'm not completely confident I would pick Manel Kape over Alexandre Pantoja. For Moreno and Kape, I don't know who I'd pick in those rematches. I'd have to do a little bit more research. I'd want to watch some more film. But I'll tell you this much. If Manel Kape ran through Mateusz Nicolau the way that I thought he was going to be able to, by stuffing the takedowns, potentially finding a TKO, or just dismantling the guy in general, I probably would have ended up picking him against Alexandre Pantoja, because I'll say this much. Alexandre Pantoja, while being very dangerous on the feet and having a very good chin, does swing some wide and looping shots. And a counter striker like Manel Kape, who is a southpaw, which will make it a little bit more goofy for Alexandre Pantoja, has some very clean counters. Very clean, quick, straight down the pipe counters that I think could be a big problem for a guy like Alexandre Pantoja. And not only that, he rips to the body very, very well. In my opinion, that will be crucial for his success in the later rounds, as we've seen multiple times that the body shots really do take effects on the opponent's cardios in the later rounds. And I think potentially we could see the most gas of Alexandre Pantoja we've ever seen while Manel Kape is boxing his head off in the later rounds, stuffing the takedowns. And if he is in the position of Brandon Royval in rounds 4 and 5, I think he could potentially stuff those takedowns and potentially finish that fight. The question is, does he have as good as cardio as Brandon Royval? And how good is his cardio? I think there's one fight on the regional scene where he went 4 rounds. I think he got a submission in the 4th round by armbar. If I'm being entirely honest with you, I've watched some of Manel Kape's tape on the regional scene, but I'd like to rewatch it, get a little bit more familiarized with it before I give you my official prediction. But as of now, I'm 50-50 on it, man. I genuinely think Manel Kape has the ability to potentially stuff the takedowns. And on the feet, he's got a great chin. He's got great power, which, like I said, Alexandre Pantoja's chin is so good, I don't really think he's going to be hurting Alexandre Pantoja at all. Maybe getting some respect from Alexandre Pantoja, stunning him, maybe rocking him at times, but Pantoja has very good chin recovery and a very good ability to just take shots, walk forward, land takedowns. And like I said, why I'm very iffy on where I would predict this fight is Pantoja can just fail the takedown, scramble over to the back, grab a couple of hooks, lock in a body triangle, and that's the round without even securing the takedown. But ultimately, I think Manel Kape and Brandon Moreno both have fantastic chances to beat Alexandre Pantoja. As of now, I don't have an official prediction. I'm going to be looking forward to Brandon Moreno and Manel Kape's next fights to see how those play out. And I would like to acquaint myself with some of their past fights a little bit more before I give an official prediction. And like I said, I think Kai Car-France has a pretty decent chance, but I would go with Alexandre Pantoja for the reasons that I stated before. Moving on to the Bantamweight division, the champion is Sean O'Malley, and to me, the toughest matchup for him is Merab Dvalishvili. Considering that it will be 5 rounds, this massively benefits Merab Dvalishvili, and while he's probably not the more skilled fighter in general, because his takedown entries really aren't that complex. They aren't the greatest, most technical wrestling entries. He's not the best wrestler we've ever seen. He's not fantastic at being able to hold down his opponents, and his striking really isn't that great either. The thing that Merab has is some of the best cardio on earth. This dude shot like north of 40 takedowns on Petr Yan, and Petr Yan's a guy that's been 5 rounds, has showcased very solid cardio in the past, and he was gassing. Merab was having his way, and when I say having his way, he was shooting multiple takedowns per round, getting him down at times, and Petr Yan was still being able to scramble back up to the feet, but he was just swallowed by the pressure of Merab Dvalishvili. Pause. Merab's going to go out there, shoot takedowns. He doesn't even need to get takedowns to win fights. You have to play a very perfect game within the clinch to really succeed against Merab Dvalishvili or land a very clean shot on Merab while he is shooting in my opinion. Well, Sean O'Malley has the ability to do that, and he landed a very clean shot against a grappler in Aljamain Sterling, who was the champion, a very dominant, although I don't want to say dominant because he's always in close decisions, against Aljamain Sterling, a very high-level bantamweight who was champion, obviously, right? Merab's going to be shooting in on takedowns. They might not be the cleanest, and he is very hittable, but the thing about Merab that makes him so, hard to deal with is not only does he have great cardio, he has a very great chin to pair with it. You can hit him with a big shot, but he will recover, and he will come back the same way he was before. And what I love about Merab and predicting him to win in this matchup is I know he's not going to stray away. He's not going to try to strike with Sean O'Malley. This dude will stick to his game plan. He did it against Aldo, he did it against Yan, and he's going to do it against Henry Cejudo. That's a 3-rounder, though, against Henry Cejudo, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm going to be predicting Merab, considering Henry Cejudo is 37, and we saw him get taken down by Aljamain Sterling, but this could look like the Aldo fight where Merab is holding him in there, landing multiple knees to his ass, and winning by that way. The thing about Merab is some people will say, well, it's damage-based scoring, bro. It's so hard to do damage on Merab within the clinch because he's going to be shooting in on a takedown if you try to do damage in the clinch with them. And if you're trying to do damage with the clinch, you maybe get taken down. If you're trying to stuff the takedown, good for you. It's going to take time. It's really hard to stay out of the clinch, and he stays active just enough to where the ref can't separate him because Merab will shoot in on multiple takedowns, fail him, stay in the clinch, land knees to your thigh, land knees to your butt, and he'll win the fight that way. That's just what Merab is. It might not be fun to watch, but it's something that will have a lot of success against a lot of opponents in 5 rounds because there's almost no one just like it. The dedication to the game plan is insane. I just don't see many people, if not anybody, being able to beat that version of Merab that went in there and fought Petr Yan. And people will say, well, Petr Yan's washed. He's on a massive losing streak. I'm sorry, bro. whatever Merab did in there is going to be hard for Sean O'Malley to counter. We've seen Sean O'Malley get taken down by Petr Yan multiple times. Merab's going to do that at a much higher pace, and it's going to be much more annoying. And as the fight goes later in rounds 4 and 5, Merab's going to be fine. And that's the thing about Merab, too, is like a lot of times when wrestlers fail takedowns, they are getting the worst of the cardio exchanges. They are gassing out more than the person that's able to stuff the takedowns. Not the case with Merab. He is superhuman. He might be on sauce. He might be on gear, EPO, whatever it is. It's unhuman, whatever it is. And that's why I'm going to have to pick him against Sean O'Malley, especially in a 5-rounder. And I think I'd pick him against anyone else in the division. If there's anyone I think has the best chance against him, it's maybe a guy like Song Yadong, who we have seen stuff chain wrestling just sequences against Ricky Simon very well, and he's very good at exploding out of the clinch and even doing some damage within the clinch. But maybe the style to beat Merab is a jiu-jitsu guy who's going to take him down and control him. Maybe Aljamain Sterling has that style to beat Merab, but as of now, there's so many strikers at the top of this division, I don't see him being able to stuff the takedowns from Merab, exploding out of the clinch, and keeping it on the feet at distance long enough to beat a guy like Merab. I know it's possible for Sean O'Malley to beat Merab, but for the reason that I have stated, Merab's the guy. He's the toughest matchup for Sean O'Malley. Outside of that, I think Corey Sandhagen is the other guy. He's one where I don't know where I would pick this fight. I think Corey Sandhagen is the more experienced guy. Super unorthodox, but so is Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley, another rangy guy. I think he's a little bit more rangy than Corey Sandhagen, has a reach advantage by like a couple of inches. So that'll be interesting to see. We don't see Corey Sandhagen fighting fighters that match his frame very often, and neither do we see it with Sean O'Malley. My thing is, Corey Sandhagen has proven 5-round cardio. Sean O'Malley has not been 5 rounds yet. Corey Sandhagen will shoot takedowns. He'll have a takedown threat. He'll be fighting out of bull stances, and I think that could potentially present issues against a guy like Sean O'Malley. The issue is, Corey Sandhagen is coming off a shoulder injury. He's been out for quite some time now, and if this fight happened at UFC 299, like Corey Sandhagen coming straight off the injury, off of the Font win, I might have to go with Sean O'Malley because he's been more active. He's not injured, but I think they're going to do Corey Sandhagen versus another top contender for a title shot. Maybe Corey Sandhagen versus Merab if they're trying to keep Merab away from the title in the meantime for a title shot. I doubt that'll be the case, though. Maybe they give Corey Sandhagen a title shot outright. But ultimately, I think Corey Sandhagen has a good style to beat Sean O'Malley because he's very unorthodox, very lengthy. Sean O'Malley hasn't dealt with that throughout his career, but Corey Sandhagen hasn't either much. So it's interesting to see. I don't know where I would predict that fight. I want to do a little bit more research. I hate saying that to you guys, but I'd want to do a little bit more research, watch some of their old fights back a little bit, but I'll say this much. In a 5-rounder, it probably favors Corey Sandhagen. We have seen Sean O'Malley look pretty tired against Petr Yan in 3 rounds. That was a very high-paced fight, and Yan didn't look the freshest after that, and Yan has been 5 rounds at a high pace before. So it is what it is. I don't think Sean O'Malley has bad cardio. He probably has 5 rounds of cardio. And, you know, take these predictions with a grain of salt because we are about to learn so much about his game in this 5-round fight against Marlon Vera. And I'll say this much, I don't even think Marlon Vera is a top 5 threat to Sean O'Malley at this point. I think he still has a very good chance. That's what's so exciting about this bantamweight division is the top of the bantamweight division has the most interesting matches in my opinion. The lightweight division has some very, very fun fights at the top. There's grappling, there's striking, but there's a lot of striking in the bantamweight division. But the thing is, all the matchups are so close and so interesting to predict, whereas Islam Makhachev, although he's fun, although he's exciting, although he's at the top of the top when it comes to skills, the dude, in my opinion, is just the next level above everyone. Sean O'Malley, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he will have a lot of competitive fights, which makes the bantamweight division so much fun to watch. I threw in Corey Sandhagen. I'm also going to throw in Petr Yan here. I think in a 5-round, it probably favors Petr Yan. I think Petr Yan could potentially get that done. Considering Petr Yan is taking on Song Yadong, I might even pick Song Yadong to beat him because 3 rounds does not favor Petr Yan. You got to keep that in mind. In a 5-rounder against Sean O'Malley, he will be a little bit better in the later rounds. Granted, Sean O'Malley did so damn good in that fight, and he's only going to be getting better. I'm not sure where I would predict that fight. I might have to lean towards Sean O'Malley, but I'll say 50-50. I want to see how Petr Yan looks against Song Yadong. I'm not sure Petr Yan is fighting at the highest stage, the highest level he's ever fought at right now. But if he beats Song Yadong, and he looks good doing it, I might have to pick Petr Yan over Sean O'Malley in a 5-rounder. Outside of that, I think Song Yadong's got a pretty good chance. And then from there, I'd probably put I'd probably put Marlon Vera right behind Song Yadong at the 5 spot for the greatest chance to beat Sean O'Malley. And at that level, I'd probably give Marlon Vera like a 35 to 40% chance to beat Sean O'Malley. Since it is 5 rounds, I'd probably say a 40% chance because there are so many unknowns about Sean O'Malley's game. Marlon Vera has very good cardio. He's very good chin. and he has very good power, and that might be all that it takes to beat a guy like Sean O'Malley, because it might just take one big shot. We've seen this throughout multiple fights in Marlon Vera's career, where the dude's down on strikes. Everyone's outboxing him, and then boom, lands a bigger shot, wins the round. Lands a bigger shot, knocks out Dominic Cruz. Like, he's got insane power. The issue is, I don't know if Marlon Vera is going to go out there pressuring, being very, volume heavy, giving himself great opportunities to knock out Sean O'Malley and have a lot of success in the later rounds, because we saw him struggling a lot against Corey Sandhagen when it came to the reach department, and I think Sean O'Malley will keep his reach. I think this will probably go to a decision. Sean O'Malley is probably going to win 4 or 5 rounds if it goes to decision, but don't rule out Marlon Vera, especially if he goes out there firing like a madman, looking for some big shots, pressuring nonstop, and just forcing Sean O'Malley to exchange in some of the closer exchanges. But I think Sean O'Malley is quicker, more powerful, and will present problems with the reach for Marlon Vera. So if I'm doing a tier list, I'm going to say number 1 biggest threat is Merab, 2 Corey, 3 Petr Yan, 4 Song Yadong, and obviously 3 and 4 will probably switch depending on who wins that next fight between Petr Yan and Song Yadong, and then 5, I'd probably say Marlon Vera. Henry Cejudo, I don't think has a very good chance to beat Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley is the better striker. Henry Cejudo is a short guy, and when it comes to his wrestling, he's not very good at holding people down. I think it's as simple as that. And then Aljamain Sterling's at the featherweight division, so I'll leave that there. Let's move on to the featherweight division. I think it's Ilia Topuria. I think he's got a great style to beat Alexander Volkanovski. I don't think anyone else in the division is going to be beating Alexander Volkanovski, but Ilia Topuria has fantastic power, has great grappling. This guy is a BJJ black belt with a Greco-Roman wrestling base, and he's good off the back foot, has some very clean and powerful counters. He's got some very good pressure. You have to respect him, and has some very good striking defense, along with a fantastic chin and proven 5-round cardio. Alexander Volkanovski is a super dominant champion. He's been champion for like over 1,500 days now. Super long reigning champion. He is coming off a knockout loss against Islam Makhachev. Ilia versus Volk takes place in like 2 weeks from now. So excited for this fight. That's my favorite fight in the entire UFC. Cannot wait for it. But I think Ilia Topuria has the tools to get this one done. Potentially find it by finish, maybe by decision, by doing more damage, because I'm telling you, this dude hits like a truck. He's super accurate, very quick hands, super athletic. And against Josh Emmett, although it wasn't one of those beatdowns where he knocked him out in the first couple of rounds, but he dropped him multiple times, and I do think that if he expended more of his gas tank, he potentially could have found that finish much earlier in the fight. Now, he played it defensively sound, played it very safe, and won by a unanimous decision where he had a 50-42. Now, that's the wrong scorecard. There was no way it should have been 50-42, but he won probably at least 5 of the rounds. At least 4 for sure, but at least 5 of the rounds, there was probably a 10-8 or 2 in there for sure. Dominated Josh Emmett, made it look very easy, and I thought Josh Emmett would have been a pretty tough stylistic matchup for Ilia Topuria. I've been saying for the longest time that Ilia Topuria was a tough matchup for Alexander Volkanovski, simply for the fact that he's a great striker with some very good power, with a similar frame to Chad Mendes, who brought Alexander Volkanovski some problems in their first fight. And now he's the young guy, improving rapidly, and Alexander Volkanovski at times has gotten hit. That's been some of his problems throughout his career against Max Holloway in the first fight. Maybe it was the second fight. I think it was the second fight, excuse me. Max dropped him a couple times down to one knee. Like, Volk has a good chin, but when he gets clipped, he will get rocked or maybe just stunned. He'll drop down to one knee, and it's counted as a knockdown, and it gives the opponent the round. I think that could be the case here with Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria could potentially find the shot and find a knockout, but at the end of the day, Volk has the better wrestling. He can probably take down Ilia Topuria. I think Ilia Topuria has the tools to scramble back up to the feet, but Volk can take him down. And Ilia Topuria, in my opinion, is very susceptible to getting leg kicked. And that's Volk's bread and butter in this matchup. It's going to be the jab, the leg kicks, and the wrestling. Super, super interesting matchup. Outside of Ilia Topuria, I think Volk beats the rest of this division, despite coming off a head kick KO loss. And I will say this much too, it was a rough weight cut at the lightweight division, considering Volk said it multiple times. You can see how drained his face was. He was coming off the couch. He looked fat. I think he had a very rough weight cut in that fight. Now he's going to be draining a lot of weight down to featherweight, and he is a very big featherweight. Moving on to the lightweight division, Islam Makhachev is the champion, and I think the toughest matchup for him is still Alexander Volkanovski. I know people might want me to say Arman Tsarukyan, maybe Benoit Saint Denis, but ultimately I think Volkanovski has the best style on the feet to beat a guy like Islam Makhachev, and he's probably going to be able to stuff a majority of the takedowns. Now the conditions are Alexander Volkanovski on a full camp that you give time to bulk up. So maybe 8 months from now, and I know if Volk loses to Ilia Topuria and then turns around, that's not going to be the case. If he gets knocked out again, I'll probably put Arman Tsarukyan up there, maybe Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, whoever it might be. But I think Islam Makhachev is a level above his opponents. I'd still give Volk maybe like a 40% chance to beat Islam Makhachev, maybe a 35% chance. Maybe I'm gassing it a little bit. But what I will say is Arman Tsarukyan on the feet, to me, isn't that good. When I watch him striking and throwing his hands, to me, it doesn't look like he's setting anything up with his hands. He does set things up with his kicks where he has a nice body kick, and he'll use that to set up his head kick. And then when that is the case, it takes a little bit of time for opponents to figure it out. They get accustomed to it, and then Arman Tsarukyan just has the hands, and I don't think he sets anything up. Like I said, I think he's lunging forward nonstop, and he's open to getting countered. Islam Makhachev has great counters, is very safe off the back foot, and I think he stuffs a majority of the takedowns from Arman Tsarukyan, if not all of them. I think he has the advantage in the submission game here, and to me, he's the much better striker. And on the feet, he has the better cardio. Although I don't think Arman Tsarukyan's cardio is horrible, he definitely was slowing down in the later rounds against Mateusz Gamrot, and I think Islam Makhachev has the clear cardio advantage. He has the range advantage on the feet. He's got a very nice body kick that will bring him a lot of success. Beneil, I think, would have had a lot of success if that fight did go later, and I know Arman Tsarukyan did just knock out Beneil Dariush. Oh, wow, but I don't think Beneil Dariush has the greatest chin. I think Beneil Dariush can get knocked out by a pillow puncher at this point in his career. Unfortunately, it's the truth. Charles Oliveira was able to knock out Beneil Dariush, and then Beneil Dariush returned 5 months later and got knocked out by Arman Tsarukyan. And I've never really viewed Arman Tsarukyan as the guy with fantastic power, and now he's getting a KO over Beneil Dariush, who never had a very good chin in the first place. And now, once he fought Charles Oliveira, gets knocked out, recovers against Arman Tsarukyan, gets knocked out. I don't think that Arman Tsarukyan has the worst power in the world. I'm just going to say maybe he has mid-power / slightly below average. I could be wrong, but I'll tell you this much. Arman Tsarukyan is not a very technical striker. He's open to getting countered. And when it comes to his style on the feet, I just don't think that it is very, very good for having success against a guy like Islam Makhachev, because he'll pressure forward. Islam Makhachev is very good defensively, and what Islam Makhachev is very good at doing, and this is why I'll pick Islam Makhachev fairly confidently against Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, even Charles Oliveira and Benoit Saint-Denis. He's very good at timing takedowns off the back foot within striking exchanges. He did this very well against Volkanovski multiple times. Volkanovski was still able to stuff a majority of the takedowns, if not scramble back up to the feet and keep it on the feet for a large part of the fight. But yeah, ultimately, I think Alexander Volkanovski still is one of, if not the best, arguably, striker in the entire UFC right now. And he has the tools, and he's had the most time on the feet against a guy like Islam Makhachev. And I know Makhachev has a very good head kick, which has always been one of Alexander Volkanovski's biggest weaknesses. And I was the guy saying that Alexander Volkanovski in a rematch with Islam Makhachev would lose to Islam Makhachev. I said Islam Makhachev had the easier adjustments to make, right? Alexander Volkanovski would have to make massive technical upgrades to beat Islam Makhachev in a rematch, whereas Islam Makhachev just had to make game plan adjustments. And he started out and made those game plan adjustments, ripped the body kick, which I said would give him a lot of success, and that set up the head kick. He also ripped some nice low kicks as well. I just think Islam Makhachev is so defensively sound on the feet that it will set up his takedowns and his counters, and a lot of these top lightweights have a striking style where they're going to be pressuring in on Islam Makhachev, following into his counters, following into his takedowns. But they do have a good chance. Like I said, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Benoit Saint-Denis all have the power to potentially put out Islam Makhachev's lights. He's getting hurt by a featherweight in Volkanovski. Well, I will say that was one of those shots that you don't see coming. Stunned Makhachev, kind of rocked him down to the ground, but he survived. He's got good chin recovery. And I'm not going to say Arman Tsarukyan is bad. I'm just saying in a pure striking fight against Islam Makhachev, who's so defensively sound, I don't think he's got the greatest style to beat Islam Makhachev. I've been wrong before, and maybe Arman Tsarukyan just looks like the greatest striker we've ever seen just because I said this, but ultimately, I do think Volk, the guy who has the ability to slow the fight down, keep it on the feet for the most part, make it a very technical striking match with the credentials in striking and what we have seen him be able to do throughout his career, the low kicks, the success that he had in the first fight, is going to force me to lean towards him as the toughest matchup for Islam Makhachev. And that's saying a huge compliment to Islam Makhachev and also to Alexander Volkanovski as well. I still think Alexander Volkanovski is very high level, but that's also telling you that I think Ilia Topuria is very high level as well. This isn't me picking Ilia Topuria simply because Alexander Volkanovski got knocked out one time. I think Ilia Topuria is genuinely a very, very solid fighter. But Islam Makhachev, toughest matchup is Alexander Volkanovski, in my opinion. Slightly behind that, I'm going to throw in Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, and Benoit Saint-Denis if he gets through Dustin Poirier, all in the same sort of tier. Let's move on to the welterweight division. Leon Edwards is the champion. To me, the toughest matchup for him is clearly Shavkat Rakhmonov. Outside of that, I think Belal and JDM could be very interesting matchups, but Shavkat Rakhmonov is a very tall guy. I don't know who I'd pick in this matchup. I'd want to see one more Shavkat fight. I don't think he's beaten anyone fantastic. He wasn't able to take down Jeff Neal, so we'll see if he's able to take down Leon Edwards. But, I mean, he has some pretty solid grappling. He's got a sambo base. He's got some very nice submissions. He's got very good power, long rangey, and it's going to be, you know, a physique. What is it called? It's going to be a range, a frame that Leon Edwards isn't used to fighting, along with a threat on the feet and on the ground that he is not used to fighting. Shavkat has great power. I want to say I'll probably end up picking Shavkat when that fight does come around. But as of now, I mean, Shavkat's recent performance against Wonderboy wasn't super impressive. Granted, he had a broken foot or ligament, whatever it was, which definitely hindered his performance to some degree. I think Leon lacks the power to potentially threaten Shavkat and force Shavkat to fight at range in a point fight with him, to stay away from the power of Leon Edwards, where Shavkat has a good chin, could walk forward, potentially find a big shot, and maybe work in some takedowns or find the back of Leon Edwards even if he fails at takedowns. So we'll see what happens there. Shavkat, definitely the toughest. Outside of that, Belal's being very underrated. I think he has a good chance against Leon Edwards. Look, he's got great cardio. He's underratedly very good defensively off the back foot. And off the back foot, he's very good at switching stances. He has a very nice jab out of both stances. He rolls with punches fairly well. And although Leon was beating him pretty badly in the first fight, like, Belal had a decent amount of success against Leon Edwards. Granted, I know Leon Edwards was clearly winning that fight. Don't get me wrong. But Belal can shoot in on takedowns. If he doesn't get the takedowns, he's not horrible on the feet. He's got a very nice body kick. And, like, Belal is a guy that, although he gets a lot of hate, you have to give him credit where credit is due. And he is definitely one of the top welterweights that has a tough style for anybody. He can fight off the front foot, off the back foot, shoot takedowns. He's good everywhere. He's got good cardio, and he's got a pretty solid mentality when it comes to the fight game. Leon Edwards will be my pick now. I think Belal will be open to the leg kicks, the body kicks, and the head kicks, but he can use the kicks from Leon Edwards as single leg entries, can use it to catch the kick, potentially find different offense through that. And I think there are openings for Belal Muhammad to win this fight. I think he's probably got the better cardio. He's probably juicing as well. But, I mean, he's a high IQ fighter that I think is being very underrated. When it comes to JDM, very solid striker. This will be a complete striking matchup more than likely. And if he goes through Gilbert Burns the way that I think he will beat Gilbert Burns, I think he'll have a good chance against Leon Edwards. He seems like a guy with a very solid chin. He's got some very nice power. In the past, he's shown that he's able to deal with range pretty well against Randy Brown and against Kevin Holland, and he's able to find some big shots. Like I said, great power. He rips to the body very well, and Leon Edwards doesn't have that massive amount of power that may force JDM to back up, and JDM could go in there like a madman, just hunting for that KO early. We don't know too much about his cardio, so that'll be an interesting factor when coming into the fight. But I think that JDM has a fairly decent chance to beat a guy like Leon Edwards here. But as of now, considering what we know about JDM, and I also do think that JDM is very open to getting calf kicked, and that's one of Leon Edwards' better tools throughout his game, I think that I will have to lean towards Leon Edwards as of now. But if I had to rank these three, I would say number 1, Shavkat, number 2, Belal, and number 3, JDM as the biggest threats. I would mention Kamaru Usman, but we've already seen him lose twice to Leon Edwards, and I doubt that fight is in play anytime soon. So let's move on to the middleweight division. Dricus du Plessis is champion. And this is one of those divisions where at the top, this belt can move around. Maybe Dricus du Plessis keeps the belt for a long time. I don't know. I'm very interested. I think Dricus du Plessis impressed me in his most recent performance against Sean Strickland, but there were also things in his game, and I'm talking about weaknesses in his game, that we already knew were there that was shown against Sean Strickland. Like, his striking defense, still not great. His cardio actually looked pretty damn good. He went 5 rounds. I was one of the guys saying Dricus du Plessis had an underrated gas tank and could go 5 rounds. That happened. He won by a decision. Now, very close fight. I'm not going to call it a robbery either way. I've rewatched the fight. I originally scored it towards Sean Strickland. I was weighing in on the jab a little bit heavier than I felt like a lot of other people were, and I can admit maybe I was a little bit in the wrong. I do think after rewatching it, I don't know who won the fight. I thought Sean Strickland was probably up a little bit on the strikes, and I think it came down to round 2. I think he was up a little bit on the strikes, but GDP landed the takedown in a very close striking fight. So it's very interesting. To me, it's a toss-up. I'm not going to call it a robbery either way. I picked Sean Strickland, and although I got it wrong, I'm not feeling like a dumbass for picking him in the first place. But DDP looked good. The question is, in a rematch, how does that go? And I think Sean Strickland, to me, is the toughest matchup for Dricus du Plessis at this point. I don't know who I would pick in a rematch. When you look at the Sean Strickland side, The argument is, if Sean Strickland is just more busy, which he will be since he know that he lost a very close decision and the judges don't like his style, according to Sean Strickland, he's been coping a lot on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever it might be. He might be a little bit more busy, and when he was more busy, being a little bit more aggressive, he had more success against Dricus du Plessis, especially in round 5. Even the counters were there, and when he goes for counters, they're there against Dricus du Plessis. And Dricus du Plessis didn't really rock or stun Sean Strickland at all in their fight. I'm not saying he doesn't have power, but I'm just saying Sean Strickland's chin held up pretty fine. And I think Sean Strickland, if he is more aggressive, can win this fight. Granted, I will say DDP has the easier adjustments to make. And when you fight a guy like Sean Strickland, his jab can be so effective and a little bit unorthodox with the way that he throws it that it can catch a lot of opponents off guard. And with a tool like that in a rematch, Dricus du Plessis, after feeling it for 5 rounds, might be better prepared for it and might game plan a little bit better and prepare for it in a way that will lead to a lot more success on the feet, and he might work in the grappling a little bit more, seeing that he landed the takedowns. In a rematch, I haven't really thought about it that much. I don't know who I would predict. I think the Sean Strickland argument is as simple as just be a little bit more active, be a lot more aggressive with your jab, work on the counters, be prepared for the takedowns to come this time, and then for the Dricus du Plessis side, he'll be a little bit more prepared for the jab, maybe working the takedowns a little bit more. There were a lot of success on both sides of the fight, so it'll be a very, very interesting rematch. I think they should do it next, seeing how close the fight was, but the reality of it is we're probably getting DDP versus Izzy, then Khamzat versus Cannonier, and Strickland versus the winner, Paulo Costa versus Robert Whittaker, unfortunately. But it is what it is. I think Dricus du Plessis can beat Sean Strickland, and then when it comes to everyone else in the division, I think he can beat them too. I'll throw in Khamzat Chimaev here. I think Khamzat Chimaev is a very interesting one to predict. I'll tell you this much. I know DDP has used wrestling to his success. I know he has submission wins and he's subbed a lot of Renzo Gracie guys. I understand that, but I do think that Khamzat Chimaev will be able to get down Dricus du Plessis. DDP was reversed by Darren Till and taken down officially by Darren Till. That's not a good look. He was taken down by Robert Whittaker and Derek Brunson. So that's also not a good look. I'm telling you this much right now. If Khamzat Chimaev takes you down, which I do think he will be able to do, he will put you in bad positions. The thing about Khamzat Chimaev is he does not have the cardio advantage, especially in 5 rounds. If DDP is able to survive, he will make it to the later rounds, find a TKO, or beat Khamzat by decision. I think he probably is the more technical striker, but as the fight goes later, I do favor DDP, and if he's able to survive the submission attempts and the TKO threat from Khamzat Chimaev early, he wins the fight. The question is, does he? And I don't know. It really is very interesting to think about because Khamzat Chimaev did break a ligament in his hand or tear it, whatever the fuck you call it. And I think that was a large reason to where potentially, maybe not a large reason, but I think that could have been a large factor as to why he was able to land the powerful shots that he wanted to on Kamaru Usman early and potentially maybe not finding the TKO. I do think round 1 was a rightful 10-8. I think that fight probably should have been a draw, but I'll say this much. To me, Khamzat Chimaev showed that he's going to be able to get anyone to the ground that he wants. The question is if he can finish him, and I'm not sure. This is one of those matchups where I'm going to be very interested to see what Khamzat Chimaev does next in his next fight and how Dricus du Plessis does in his next fight. I don't think Khamzat Chimaev is getting the next title shot. I think that would be crazy. I mean, he beat Kamaru Usman, a welterweight, and he hasn't had a singular ranked middleweight win. I think him versus Cannonier is probably next. If not him versus Izzy, I'd predict him over Izzy. As of now, that's a slight lean. And I think I'd pick him over Cannonier, but I'm not super confident. I want to rewatch the Kamaru Usman fight. I really do. But I think Khamzat Chimaev does have a very good chance against DDP and will find success early. But DDP still is a very solid grappler in his own right. Has some very solid jiu-jitsu, pretty solid wrestling, the more well-rounded guy, and as the fight goes later, he has a lot of chance to beat him. Outside of that, against Israel Adesanya, I'll pick him against Izzy. Against Robert Whittaker, oh shoot, now that that's 5 rounds, that is very interesting. If Robert Whittaker goes out there and just decimates Paulo Costa in a 5-rounder, that would be a little bit more interesting. Robert Whittaker might be a little bit more comfortable with being passive, circling, and might play it very passive against Dricus du Plessis, fighting off the back foot a lot, circling nonstop, and I think that could bring some problems to Dricus du Plessis. Until I see Robert Whittaker against Paulo Costa, I'm going to lean towards Dricus du Plessis, especially in a 3-rounder, but this is a 5-rounder, so I think that's a very close matchup. Very close matchup. Another one of those where you're like, damn. I don't think it was a fluke. In a 3-rounder, I would pick DDP over Robert Whittaker again. But in a 5-rounder, I do think it favors Robert Whittaker. He's got good cardio. And just overall, he'll be a little bit less forced to create some offense for himself. Interesting, though. Very, very interesting. That's a fight that I haven't even thought about. So anyways, but against Izzy, I pick him against Izzy. I think he finds the takedowns on Izzy. Izzy's been taken down by Whittaker multiple times. by Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori found his back, had a potential moment of threatening a rear naked choke. Wasn't able to find the choke, but if that's Dricus du Plessis, I think he'll potentially find the choke. And I think Dricus is smart enough to work a grapple-heavy game plan against Izzy Adesanya. If it's a complete striking matchup, I'd probably go with Izzy here. But Dricus still has a good chance. He's very unorthodox, switches stances, great power, and still will have a takedown threat no matter what. But Izzy is a very good counter-striker. And the thing about Dricus is his striking defense sucks. Respectfully. It's not the great. I don't say sucks. That's kind of a harsh word for a champion. But it's not the greatest. And Izzy will be able to pick apart the legs and probably find counters off the back foot. The thing about Sean Strickland and why he found a lot of success is because Sean Strickland was able to pressure Izzy while staying very, very defensively sound. So ultimately, I think in a 5-round fight, Sean Strickland, Khamzat Chimaev, and Robert Whittaker are all like tied at the top. I don't know where I'll predict there. I want to see Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa. And then Izzy's probably trailing somewhere behind. I think Dricus can potentially stay champion. I'm really looking forward to his next fight. I don't think he's a fraud. I like the guy. If he's fighting Izzy next, I'll be cheering for him heavily. I think he gets his done. Like I said, potentially finds a submission, TKO, or even a decision against all these guys. Very well-rounded, very dangerous everywhere. Has proven that he can go 5 rounds, and cool guy. Very cool guy. But middleweight is very interesting at the top. I think anybody can admit that. I'm actually very excited, the most excited I've been for the middleweight division in quite some time. Moving on to the light heavyweight division, I think Alex Pereira's toughest matchup is Magomed Ankalaev. I think Magomed Ankalaev would be able to find the takedowns in Alex Pereira. I know Magomed Ankalaev has said on Twitter that he won't shoot any takedowns. That is straight cap. I don't believe that for one bit. And if he shoots takedowns, he's going to get them. Everyone that has shot a takedown in Alex Pereira has gotten them. Yuri, Jan, Izzy, Bruno Silva, Andreas Michailidis, the only person that hasn't shot on him was Sean Strickland, and he got knocked out in the first round, right? I think Magomed Ankalaev on the feet does not have a very good chance. His leg kick defense is horrible. Alex Pereira, in my head, has the best leg kicks in the entire UFC. I'm a massive Alex Pereira fan, but I'm not going to be delusional and say, yeah, just because he's better on the feet, he's going to knock out Magomed Ankalaev. I don't think that's the case. I think Magomed's shooting early. If not, he's staying very defensively sound on the feet, not taking many risks, and then finding the time to shoot in on the takedown. And then from there, he finds the takedowns, batters up Alex Pereira on the ground, and each round after that, Alex Pereira is probably going to get a little bit more tired. He's going to be damaged. He's going to be softened up a little bit. And I think Magomed Ankalaev probably finds a later round TKO, unfortunately. Maybe even a submission. I don't think Alex Pereira's ground game is that good. I'm a big fan of the dude, but it is what it is. Yuri Prochazka should not be taking you down. Jan Blachowicz arguably shouldn't be taking you down. I know he stuffed some of the takedowns, but even then, Magomed Ankalaev has better takedowns than him. And Magomed Ankalaev took down Jan Blachowicz and dominated him on the ground for the later rounds of that fight. I think that Magomed Ankalaev really will not take many risks on the feet. And although I don't trust him to take the biggest shot from Alex Pereira, and Alex Pereira can easily set up that shot and knock out Magomed Ankalaev at any point when the fight is on the feet, I think Magomed will be shooting takedowns from bell to bell. And if not, once he finds the takedowns, he'll be in top control. He's got very good top control, and Alex Pereira won't be able to get back up to the feet the same way he did against Yuri, the same way that he did against Jan. And even then, he spent a lot of time on the ground. But Alex Pereira, when he is on the ground, does stay pretty defensively sound. He kind of expends all his energy on just making sure he's not getting hurt or not getting submitted. It's basically straight defense from Alex Pereira, and he slowly works his way back up to his feet, so maybe he survives to a decision. And maybe that's pretty smart. Just survive once you're taken down, but when it is on the feet, be aggressive and trying to find the big shot. I think that's definitely very possible. He's got a good chance, but I say Magomed Ankalaev, probably like a 52% chance for now. And I think Ankalaev will probably fight the winner of Hill versus Pereira. I think that fight is next. And I think Jamal Hill has the second best chance in the entire division. The thing is with Jamal Hill, he's not going to be shooting takedowns. If Jamal Hill went out there and said, I'm shooting takedowns on Alex Pereira, I'd probably pick Jamal Hill. But if you watch Jamal Hill's YouTube channel and you see him on Twitter, he feels disrespected by the fans. And as a result, he has made an adamant point to not shoot a takedown against Alex Pereira so that he can beat him on the feet. And there are certain times where you think like, okay, well, he's just saying that to say that. No, I believe him. This is Jamal Hill. He's a salty guy. He responds to everybody on Twitter. He seems a little bit hurt by the fans. And look, I'm not going to be the Pereira fan to say Jamal Hill has no chance. On the feet, Jamal Hill is quick. He's powerful. Alex Pereira has been knocked out by a quick and powerful Israel Adesanya. The thing with Jamal Hill is I think he's a little bit undersized for the light heavyweight division. And although he's a southpaw and that can present issues to Alex Pereira, he's not used to fighting southpaws. Jamal Hill might be pressuring in, walking into some counters, and I do think that his stance is very susceptible to getting leg kicked. Now, Alex Pereira is getting up there in age and is very hittable. I think Alex Pereira is now 37, maybe 36, something like that, but he's been looking slower recently. I didn't think he looked fantastic against Yuri Prochazka. He definitely is slowing down. The old age is probably getting to Alex Pereira a little bit. I hate to admit it as a massive fan, and he probably does lose the belt at some time. We might see retirement this time of year. Not this time of year, but in 2024, unfortunately. I think Alex Pereira is probably going to beat Jamal Hill on the feet, and then he'll turn around against Magomed Ankalaev, and Magomed Ankalaev beats him. And then from there, maybe fights one more. Depending on whether he wins or loses, I could see him retiring. I love Alex Pereira. I just don't see him beating Jamal Hill. Alexander Rakic is another guy I want to bring up here. I think a lot of people will be picking Alexander Rakic against Alex Pereira because Alexander Rakic was able to take down Jan Blachowicz. I'll say this much. One of the takedowns was Jan Blachowicz throwing some crazy shit, and then Alexander Rakic time to take down, and not only that, Jan Blachowicz just made a technical error, and then the reason why he had such great top control is because he found the takedown in the open mat, not up against the cage, and took Jan Blachowicz forever to get up against the cage, and when he did, he finally scrambled back up to the feet. I was probably going to be ending up picking Jan Blachowicz in a rematch against Alexander Rakic. Now Rakic is taking on Yuri, and as a massive Yuri fan, I am thinking Rakic might win that. But Rakic has been clipped by some massive shots by Jan Blachowicz. The leg kicks were really working for Jan Blachowicz, and if they were working for Blachowicz, I think they will work for Pereira. And the shots that Jan Blachowicz landed in round one against Alexander Rakic, if Alex Pereira lands those shots, I think he knocks out Alexander Rakic. I think he gets an early KO against Alexander Rakic. I'll say 48% chance for Rakic. I'll say 49% chance for Jamal Hill. But if Jamal Hill switches his mind and says he's going to be shooting takedowns, Jamal Hill will be the slight lean over Alex Pereira. Light heavyweight's fun at the top too. Light heavyweight's a fun division now. I feel like the middleweight and light heavyweight division haven't been that fun at the top. They are finally interesting. Let's go. I mean, I'm excited for it, man. So let's move on to the heavyweight division. Right now, as the champ is Jon Jones. Interim champ is Tom Aspinall. The toughest task for Jon Jones, in my opinion, is Tom Aspinall. And personally, I would pick Tom Aspinall over Jon Jones. I know a lot of people say, well, that's what everyone's been saying about Jon Jones for each one of his last opponents. Okay, Ciryl Gane is a horrible grappler. Very bad submission defense and very bad takedown defense. People thought that he would improve. Ciryl Gane is a natural heavyweight who is big and strong. Jon looked a little bit flabby, and he definitely looked a little bit slower on the feet for sure. He did not look quick. I think Ciryl Gane looked quicker on the feet in my opinion. Now Jon still has solid wrestling, and he's the better wrestler than Tom Aspinall. The thing is, Tom Aspinall is stronger than Ciryl Gane, and he is much better acclimated on the ground. He's a BJJ black belt, has had some submission wins throughout his career, has shown some nice takedown entries, especially against Alexander Volkov. Now I can recognize that when it comes to Alexander Volkov, he is not the greatest grappler. He doesn't have the greatest takedown defense, and probably not the greatest submission defense either, but Tom Aspinall has shown a pretty high degree of grappling so far, especially for the heavyweight division. I know when it comes to the heavyweight division, so many of the fighters in the division suck. But I'll say this much. He is quick on the feet. He's probably the quicker striker here. And he is the more powerful. And I think he lands on Jon early. This fight only has to be on the feet for a minute for Tom Aspinall to potentially find a massive shot against Jon Jones. And if he hurts Jon Jones, he's got submissions to his game, potentially finds a submission. I think he'd probably KO him in the first round. I could see him stuffing the takedowns from Jon Jones. Genuinely. And I'm not going to say I'm super confident in it because I know Jon Jones has the ability to take this fight down to the ground. And if he takes the fight down to the ground, he'll probably find some success there. I just don't think Jon Jones is a natural heavyweight. He's probably a lot slower than he was in the past. He's coming off an injury at this point in his career. And I think Tom is probably the quicker guy. He's the younger guy. He's improving. He will have probably been prepared watching a lot of tape on Jon Jones. You've seen him talk about the fight on Twitter. He really wants the fight. Although Tom Aspinall's wrestling is a little bit unknown, we haven't seen it tested in the heavyweight division, and that's just how it goes. I'm going to be trusting on the strength of Tom Aspinall, the insane power. He's pretty damn athletic, and he's a BJJ black belt with some good submissions. I do think there's a world where maybe he gets taken down in round one. Jon Jones threatening submissions. Can't finish Tom Aspinall because Tom Aspinall's chin seems pretty decent. He took a pretty clean shot from Sergey Pavlovich, right? And was able to survive, circle around a little bit, and now lands a great 1-2 right down the pipe, follows it up with another 1-2, and Sergey Pavlovich is out. Great power, great physical tools. And I think there's a world, like I was getting to, where he survives a submission in round one, comes out in round two, and it's on the feet for 10 seconds, finds a big shot, and knocks out Jon Jones. I generally don't think that Jon Jones's chin along with any other chins, are meant to take the shots from Tom Aspinall. I think if Tom Aspinall lands clean on anybody, they're going out. It's just how it is. I'll say like a 55% chance from Tom Aspinall to win that fight, but that's not very confident. It's really not very confident. I don't like the fact that Jon is coming off the injury. I'd have to rewatch the Andre Arlovski fight because I remember there were some exchanges in there where Tom Aspinall didn't look the greatest, but I do think Tom is improving rapidly. His dad seems to know what he's doing. Like I said, BJJ black belt for that reason. Tom Aspinall is the pick. He's going to be staying more active. I really loved his win against Sergey Pavlovich. On the feet, massive advantage. On the ground, I mean, he's no joke either. And considering he's going to be the stronger, quicker, more athletic guy, he's got to be the pick for me personally. I can understand the Jones side. He's probably the more skilled fighter overall, right? When it comes to a technical standpoint, he's probably the more technical striker. He's probably got the better wrestling. And probably some better submissions. I mean, we haven't really seen Tom Aspinall submit any high-level guys, and since he is a heavyweight BJJ black belt probably doesn't mean as much as Jon Jones is, but whatever that means, I still think Tom Aspinall, just based off his athleticism and the swing tools like his power, strength, everything that I mentioned multiple times now is why I'm picking Tom Aspinall over Jon Jones. Round 1 KO. No disrespect to Jon Jones. The other matchups I would say are tough for Jon Jones would be Sergey Pavlovich, who is another strong guy, Greco-Roman wrestling base. And originally I was thinking, Sergey has a very good chance against Jon Jones. But I will say this much. After seeing Sergey fight Tom Aspinall, Sergey is plotty. He is a slower guy. And I can't trust him to be able to sprawl takedowns, turn his hips very quickly. And although it's definitely very possible, I give him a pretty damn solid chance. I'd say like a 40 to 45% chance to beat Jon Jones. And I know that sounds, I'll say 40% chance because I know Jon Jones' takedown entries are pretty slick. And he knows of the power coming his way from Sergey Pavlovich. He's a smart guy. I don't think Sergey Pavlovich is a very clean technical striker. I don't think Jon Jones is that quick, like I said. But I think Sergey is going to be plotty. He's a little bit predictable, respectfully, but what he does do that's very good is although he does wing up on some shots sometimes, he keeps his hips and his shoulders very square, allowing him to sprawl takedowns at almost any point of the fight. Now, I will say Jon Jones' wrestling is probably a lot better than Curtis Blaydes, who wasn't even able to shoot a good takedown. We haven't seen Sergey Pavlovich's takedown defense on display or any successful grappling from Sergey Pavlovich on display basically at all throughout his career, so I'm going to have to go with Jon Jones here. Not super confident, like I said. Like, there's a clear difference when it comes to the striking. And with the Greco-Roman wrestling base, I could see Sergey Pavlovich stuffing one takedown and landing a big shot on the break from Jon Jones. Not going to do that in round 1. It's probably round 1 KO for Sergey Pavlovich or bust. He probably gets submitted. Maybe like just at the start of every single round, he probably have a good chance. If he stuffs the takedowns, he wins the fight. I don't know if he stuffs the takedowns. I think Jon Jones will be able to take the guy down. The thing about Jon Jones is he's very good at, grabbing a leg, turning the corner, driving from a different angle, and I think that's where a guy like Sergey Pavlovich, who's not very good at turning his hips, will not be the most successful. Outside of that, I guess Curtis Blaydes, maybe Jailton Almeida, but I doubt Jailton Almeida has very good striking. He grapples with everybody. I think Jon Jones is probably the better grappler. Curtis Blaydes, and not very good. Maybe the takedown defense is a little bit better than Sergey Pavlovich, but I don't think he's as dangerous of a striker as Sergey Pavlovich, and he's pretty plotty, probably even slower than Sergey Pavlovich, so I'll go with Jon Jones there. Only person that I'd pick against Jon Jones is Tom Aspinall, and like I said, I'd say like a 55% chance at this point. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. If there's anything you disagree with, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. I'm open-minded. I love everyone else's opinion. I want to see what the community thinks, but these are my opinions. Yeah, make sure to like and subscribe, like I said, and I'll see you guys in the next one.